I'm attorney Phil Jusino, and this is Finding Common Ground here on Altice Channel 115. You can see this show every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Channel 115 for you Long Islanders. If you missed the show, go to WLINY Internet Radio for prior shows. Sometimes it takes a little while for this show to get uploaded, but if you keep going to that WLINY Internet Radio, you'll get to see prior shows. Got a great show planned for tonight. Normally, I speak about the law. I'm an attorney, been practicing almost 30 years, former prosecutor. We talk about equitable distribution, criminal cases, jury trials, you name it. I'm going to call an audible tonight because I was thinking about it all day, and I said I could do something about the law or I could do something political. Now, for a long time, and I'm going to be going back to it, I did a show on Friday nights called Finding Common Ground, and it was a show about politics, social commentary, law, and we discussed many different topics, things that were current. I want to do that again tonight because I was watching the debate the other day, the Democrat debate, and right before leading into the South Carolina primary, and it's a lot on my mind and I want to discuss that, so let's get to it. Watching the debate the other night, in my mind, I came to a few conclusions, and I had these thoughts anyway. One of them is that the candidates running for POTUS, President of the United States, as Democrats, look at race very differently than, let's say, President Trump, or your traditional Republican, or I for that matter. Now, I am not saying this is an indictment on the Democrat Party, and I'll talk about that in a little while, where I feel that the Democrat Party has gone very far left. This is not your grandfather's Democrat Party. This is not the party of John F. Kennedy. Not even close, not by a long shot. So what I want to focus in on with this show is a number of things: race, socialism, the candidates that are running, the economy, certain principles. So I'm going to focus in on Bloomberg, Biden, Buttigieg, Klobuchar, I think I said Biden already, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders. That's who I'm focusing in on. When you hear someone like Bloomberg say, if I was black, I might not have had the same opportunities or achieved what I achieved. And then you hear the other candidates talk about race as though the white man, and I lump it with white man, white woman, the white person is racist and oppresses the black man and other minorities. I'm focusing in on blacks because that's how they framed the issue the other day. They were talking mainly about black people. And to hear Bloomberg say something like that, my response would be, that may be true, maybe not. Now, is he saying that blacks aren't up to the task? Is that what he's saying? Or is he saying there is so much systematic racism in America, which I don't believe is the case? Racism? Yeah, there are pockets of racism. There are black racist, white racist, Latino racist, Asian racist, you name it, it exists. But systematic racism? If systematic racism truly existed, would we have had Barack Obama as President of the United States? Think about that for a second. Would we have Barack Obama? Probably not, because the country would not vote for a black man if you believe that there's systematic racism directed at minorities. So let's go back to what Bloomberg said. I don't know if I would have achieved the success I achieved if I was a black man. Now, we've had blacks for centuries being very successful in America. Even before the Civil War, after the Civil War, we've had black CEOs, we've had a black president, we have black Supreme Court justices, going back to Thurgood Marshall, a great attorney who became a Supreme Court justice. We have blacks in entertainment. We have blacks in sports. We have black doctors. We have black lawyers. So to say that the black man can't make it, I think is inaccurate. And I think that in and of itself is racist and not something that I think politicians should talk about that way. What do I mean by that? It's condescending, because it would be like me saying, unless the government steps in, and that's what they want. Let's not kid ourselves. Those candidates are big government people, even Bloomberg. They want government to solve all of the problems. Healthcare, housing, the economy. Bloomberg may not consider himself a socialist, and he might not be a socialist, but he's a big government guy. Don't be fooled. Remember when he was mayor of the city? He prevented Rudy Giuliani from getting a third term after 9/11. But yet he had New York City charter changed so he could serve a third term. That's hypocrisy. Rudy can't do it. Oh, okay, I'm going to do it when it came his turn to either leave office or look for a third term. He was also telling people what they could eat, what they couldn't eat. A nanny state. You can't buy a Big Gulp at this place, so you shouldn't be able to buy that. And he says, oh, the city's healthier. That's not government's job. Government can educate us. That's fine. Tell us what foods are good, what foods are bad. Tell me not to drink a Mountain Dew? That's not government's job. If something's poisonous, obviously. But if I want to have a Big Mac, I should be allowed to have a Big Mac. I don't want government stepping in and saying, Phil, it's not good for you. Or this is what you should eat. An adult should be able to live their life the way they want to. If they want to balloon to 400 pounds, that's their right. Now, there may be consequences. Maybe an insurance company gives incentives for people to stay trim. Okay, just like a good driver. If you're a good driver, your premiums for car insurance, automobile insurance, will be less than somebody that every other day is getting into an accident. That's a fact of life. That's fine. But the current crop of Democrats, all of them, they talk about race as though the government has to be part of this discussion. And I say it doesn't. Now, there are laws on the books, and that's what government should do. Enforce the laws that are on the books. Government should not pick winners and losers. Because think about it for a second. I'll give you an example, affirmative action. And maybe had the heart in the right place, but it hurt other people. Let's say a white kid applied to Harvard, and he was more qualified than a black kid, a particular black kid that they were considering. And they said, let's pick this black kid over this white kid. Now that kid didn't get into the school he was qualified to get in. And that particular black student, again, I'm just generalizing here, but now I'm talking about two specific kids, a black kid and a white kid. White kid's more qualified than the black kid. Black kid gets into that school. Now, that could hurt that black kid because maybe he's not qualified to go to that school. The same as if you took a kid who was Hispanic and you said, we need more Hispanics, let him in, or Indian, Native American. Now, it's okay to go out there and say, look, we want diversity. That's fine. But make sure they're qualified for that particular school. Not everyone is cut out to go to Harvard or Johns Hopkins or Yale or Columbia. You get the idea. But it happens. They should look for qualified candidates. You wouldn't do that with airline pilots. You wouldn't say, you know what, we need more whatever airline pilots. So let's lower the standards if we have to get that candidate in there to be a pilot. No, you want the best pilots. If the best pilot in a particular case is black, that's the guy you go to. If it's white, green, yellow, you want the best pilot. I always joke and say, if I'm in a plane, I want Sully, Miracle on the Hudson. I want him. Now, I don't care if he was Asian or Greek or Middle Eastern. I don't care. I want the best pilot. If someone is cutting into you for surgery, do you care if he's Jewish, Christian, Muslim? You don't. You want the best surgeon at that moment. And you wouldn't want somebody that, let's say, became that surgeon because they lowered the standards. And again, that's not to say black kids don't get into Harvard. They do every day. But let's look at how they're selected. Very, very important. Now, when I say government shouldn't pick winners and losers, when government tries to level the playing field, in a sense, they're tilting the field in one direction. Just like I used affirmative action as an example. Right? Now, I'll give you an example. Let's say the government wanted to help attorneys in Lake Grove. That's where my office is. And they went down the block, and there was an attorney named Joe Smith. There isn't, but I just made that up. And government said, you know what? Let's help Joe Smith because we want a lot of good attorneys in Lake Grove. So we're going to make his office look nice. We're going to give him money. We're going to subsidize him in some way. Would that be fair? Absolutely not. What about me? I'm competing against that person. If he has an unfair advantage, then that means he could be more prosperous than me. Doesn't mean he's a better attorney. That's just an example. Now you might say, well, government's not going to do that. They do. They do. In 2009, Obama's administration, as per some legislation that was passed, gave Solyndra $535 million. That's a fact. Look it up. $535 million. That's a solar panel company. They were out of business in a couple of years. 1,100 people were laid off. We got ripped off. The taxpayer lost. Now, what if you had a solar panel company down the block or in the same vicinity as Solyndra? Wouldn't you be kicking and screaming and saying, that's not fair? Why did they get that infusion of money? I didn't. So that gives them an unfair advantage. So when you think government doesn't do that, they do it all the time. Just like when they say free healthcare or free education. That's no such thing. Somebody is picking up the tab somewhere along the line, and it's usually the taxpayer. So when they say Johnny's going to get a free education, no. He might not be paying for it, but somebody else is. Somebody along the line. Again, usually a taxpayer. Now let's go back to when we say leveling the playing field and what the Democrats running for president believe. Now, you either believe that whites and blacks and Latinos and Asians are equal under the law, and I'll tell you why I use that phrase, or they are not. I believe they are equal under the law, and they should be treated as equal under the law. That means blacks shouldn't get an unfair advantage over whites. Whites shouldn't get an unfair advantage over blacks. But let's be realistic. All men are not created equal. That might be said in the Declaration of Independence. Under the law, they're created equal. If you were born to the Obamas, they have two daughters, those kids will have more advantages, more opportunities than, let's say, a kid born in the Appalachian Mountains or a child born to a poor family on the south side of Chicago. That's a fact. That will always be. That's never going to change. You're going to have rich people, poor people, and people in the middle, like the bell curve. You're always going to have that. If you're a kid of Michael Bloomberg, you're going to have more opportunities than a kid born to a destitute or very poor family. Government can't change that. What is government going to do? Step in and say, we're taking that kid, we're giving it to Mike Bloomberg? No, that's a fact of life. The same thing as if a kid is born to, let's say, a movie star. They have advantages. Now, many of them don't play that hand well. They end up on drugs. They end up committing suicide, or they end up in a drug rehab. That's because they didn't play their hand, but they were given the advantages. So government can't really do much about it. The best thing that a government can do is create an atmosphere where people can prosper. And how do they do that? It's all about the economy. James Carville, who worked for Clinton, he said, it's the economy, stupid. And what did he mean by that? When it's time to vote, you might not vote, you might not care as much about climate change. You might not care as much about abortion. You may not care as much about national security or the border. That might not be your number one priority. But what is the priority for most people? The economy. You want to make sure you got a job so you can support your kids and pay for them, provide food on your table, give them an education, pay for your car, pay for your insurance, everything you need. You want to make sure your kids will follow and get jobs as they get older. If it's a bad economy, not much else matters. Right? Not that those other issues aren't important. Border security is important. Climate change, there's a discussion there. Abortion, to many people, that might be the number one priority, but people need a job. And not just the elite. Now, that's why I get very angry when I hear those candidates talking about, only rich people are benefiting from this economy. No, that's not true. I did a little research. As of October, November of 2019, so a number of months ago, but not too far ago, the unemployment rate in America, 3.6. That's historically low. For Hispanics, it is very, very low. For blacks, it's the lowest been in recorded history. So that benefits black people, Hispanics, women, white, all different people. It's not just benefiting the whites or the rich. So that's wrong. That's a lie when they say that. It's affecting everybody who wants to participate. Now, if you're going to sit at home and be a couch potato and not look for a job, then of course you're not going to benefit. I never said employment would be zero. And even if it was zero, there'd be people out there that don't want to work. Not that they can't. And there's a safety net. I always say that. I'm not heartless. There should be a safety net for people that are handicapped or unable to work. We have that. And there's welfare for people, let's say, lose a job, can't find a job. But it shouldn't be generational. You go to some communities, and those people live on welfare, the kids are on welfare, the grandkids are, it just continues. And then you have Democrats in those communities, Baltimore, Chicago, St. Louis, saying, vote for me, I'm the Democrat, I will take care of you. I'll give you the government cheese, I'll give you welfare, I'll give you housing. That's not what they need. They need an opportunity. And President Trump, whether you like him or hate him, his policies, not all him, but his policies have helped minorities, have helped non-minorities to get jobs, to be prosperous. Reagan asked, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Most people say they're better off now than they were 4 years ago, before President Trump took office. Now we can debate, was Obama good, was he bad? Remember when he said that, certain jobs are not coming back? Obama said that. And he said, how's Trump going to do that? A magic wand? Trump did bring many of those jobs back. Remember when Mark Cuban, who's a billionaire, you see him on Shark Tank, he owns a basketball team, and he said, Trump will tank the stock market. Remember? Stock market's been pretty good under him. Yeah, it had a hit recently with the coronavirus. It went up, I think, 2 or so points today. But that wasn't because of Trump. You want to blame Trump for the coronavirus, then that's another discussion. But the economy is doing well. And I always say, who thinks that a socialist will keep this economy humming? I don't believe that to be the case. Now, with an economy, there will be people that'll benefit and there will be people that'll fall behind because, again, they're not working hard. They have to participate. They have to educate themselves, whether it be a formal education like college, it could be the trades. It could be an electrician, a plumber. Some of them are doing very, very well. I just had an electrician in my house the other day. There's a lot of work to be had for the trades. People have cars. My car breaks down, I go to a mechanic. I don't open the hood and try to fix it. And the better the economy, those people, those tradesmen, lawyers, doctors, everybody benefits. I'm an attorney. If the economy is doing bad and people don't have the money to hire me, I suffer. Maybe I don't feel it as quickly because I have, a bit of a cushion that maybe somebody else might not have. But a good economy is what these candidates should be talking about. But they can't. Because if you talk about the economy, they lose. They're going to lose anyway. President Trump, barring some unforeseen calamity, President Trump will be reelected. In 2016, I predicted Trump would beat Hillary Clinton. People thought I was crazy. How can he win? It's a joke. He's not really running. He is running, and he's not going to win. The polls say, one poll said it was like 99.9% that Trump would not win the election. And he did. Now people know, well, he didn't have the popular vote. He played by the rules and he won. If it was the popular vote, he would have campaigned differently. He would have kicked the butt no matter what. Now, those candidates talk in terms of victims. You're a victim, and I'm going to help you out. The government is going to provide for you. Again, like a nanny state. Think about it for a second. If you have a child, are you going to teach that child, let's say you're a black family, are you going to teach that child who's black that America is a racist, oppressive country? You can't make it. Don't even try. You're not going to make it. You're not going to succeed to any real level. Or do you tell your child, do the best you can, get an education, and you can succeed? Don't dwell on the negatives. Because it's not just about race. They kind of make it about race because they want to divide us. It's not just about race. There could be many reasons why people succeed and people fail. If you're a phenomenal athlete and you make it in professional sports, you're going to make a lot of money. Right? Few and far between. What if you're born and you're slow and you're not strong? And then you're not going to go into sports. So it'd be wrong for a parent to say, keep trying, Johnny. You're going to become a professional basketball player. You're probably only going to be 5'4", and you have no athletic ability, but keep trying. No, that would be better say, yeah, have fun, play a sport, but get an education. Channel them towards something that they can excel in. Right? Just like if you had a child, let's say, with a low IQ. You might not say, you're going to become a doctor. If the writing's on the wall. Say, get an education. Maybe you're going to be whatever, where you don't have to have the same kind of brain power as maybe somebody that's going to be an astrophysicist. Let's be honest. Again, like I pursued the law. That was what I wanted to pursue. I was good in the disciplines that a lawyer needed to be good in. Right? Maybe I wasn't good in scientific math, or maybe I wasn't going to be an engineer. That's okay. But I went to what I wanted to do. There are some people that are very good mechanics. They can fix a car like you wouldn't believe, and they have a successful shop. Imagine if all we had were doctors, or all we had were lawyers. It'd be pretty bleak. We need a good economy from people that are working at McDonald's all the way up to the President of the United States, and in between, CEOs of companies, people that invent things, people that create things, people that fix things. There's a whole industry now for people fixing computers. When there weren't computers, those people didn't exist. Farming has changed a lot. And Bloomberg kind of insulted farmers, but he talked about you stick the seed in, you cover it up, you water it. And now maybe he was talking about the old days, but even that, there was animal husbandry and genetics. It's been around for a long time. Planting seeds and trying to get a different yield or experimenting with it. Even before we had, hard science as to, the Watson-Crick DNA molecule. There were farmers experimenting, trying to get a better yield or a different type of fruit if you mix certain types of seeds. That's been going on for a long time. And imagine where the world would be without farmers. Now, a little while ago, I talked about being born with advantages and not being born with advantages. An example I use is Abraham Lincoln, right? Arguably our greatest president, certainly in the top 3. He was born to a father that was illiterate, couldn't write his own name. His father, Tom Lincoln, signed with an X. His mother died, I think, when he was at a young age. And yet he became one of the finest attorneys of his day, became a politician, became a president, freed the slaves, and I like to bring this up, with the Republican Congress without one Democrat vote. Look it up. That's a fact. But he freed the slaves. Now, when he was born, if you took a look at him when he was born in that log cabin and you said, he's going to be arguably one of the greatest Americans that ever lived, you might say, he's got a ways to go. Right? I'm not so sure about that. Meanwhile, some kids born to a rich couple or an ambassador or something that live in the Upper East Side, you might say, yeah, that guy, like a Bush. They were born to the Bush family. They were expected to excel, just like the Kennedys. John, well, actually, I think it was his brother Patrick, was supposed to be the first guy that was going to be president. He was killed in the war. And then his father's attention turned toward John F. Kennedy. They had the money, they had the power to make things happen. Lincoln wasn't born into that, but yet he achieved greatness. We see that all the time. Does racism exist in America? As I said before, it does. You see it. There are racist people out there of all colors. You see it. Here, not against me, but I've experienced people say things about another race or another ethnicity in a negative way throughout my life. And when I would hear that, I didn't like it. I would usually make a comment like that's racist. Or why would you say that? Lumping in, like, let's say a black person commits a crime. Oh, they're all like that. No, you can't do that. That particular black person may be a bad person, just like a white person that commits that same crime. But focus in on the individual. Don't brand all whites or all blacks or all Latinos for the actions of a few, or even many, the case could be. They say, well, blacks may commit a disproportionate amount of the crime. Okay, let's assume that's the case. That doesn't mean all blacks are bad or all Latinos are bad. Look at the individual. Judge them on their merits. Just like Martin Luther King Jr. said, judge a man on the content of his character, not the color of his skin. Because if you can't get by the color of his skin, you're not going to give that person a fair shake if your skin color is different. Government can't pick winners and losers. Create an atmosphere where people can thrive. There's an expression, a rising tide lifts all boats. I say it lifts most boats. You're going to have some people that fall behind because they can't make it or they refuse to work hard to make it. But that good economy is a rising tide, which lifts most boats. And that's what we're experiencing now in America. Here we are in 2020. Things are going pretty well. There's setbacks occasionally. If this coronavirus turns out worse than we anticipated, could it cause a recession? There's been talk about that. That's a possibility. But having a stronger economy is better than if you had a bad economy and then the coronavirus hit. Then that would not be a good thing. Now, what I'm saying is not rocket science. These are things that I believe in and that other people believe in too. But where I have a fundamental disagreement, even beyond the race issue, with someone like Bernie Sanders or some of the liberals that are on that stage, is socialism does not work. Socialism is bad, capitalism good. That's the easiest way I can say what I believe in. Capitalism has lifted more people out of poverty than anything else. Capitalism. Give a person incentive. If they work hard, they can succeed. And what does succeed mean? Making enough money to provide for their family, to be able to retire at some point, to have a nest egg so God forbid their car breaks down. They don't have to walk to work. They can make it. Now, Cuba, the Soviet Union, Venezuela, socialism and communism does not work. It's doomed to fail. So when you have somebody like Bernie Sanders say, I'm a democratic socialist, what does that mean? You're a socialist. Free this, free that. Doesn't work. Venezuela was prosperous not that long ago. Oil reserves, very prosperous country. What happened? They turned to socialism. People there are eating dogs. They're leaving the country to survive, to provide for their family. It is bad. Cuba, we saw what happened with socialism. Even though Bernie Sanders, who honeymooned in Moscow, which is the Soviet Union, for 10 days, which is kind of bizarre, he talks about, well, there are some good things that Castro did with education. And it'd be like saying the Nazis experimented on people, so there were some good things that come from it. No, you cannot justify that. What Bernie Sanders is trying to sell the American people is something that will destroy the economy. Right? If you put in a socialist to run this country as the president, now, he won't get most of what he wants through, but he's going to gum up the works. He's going to try to do those things. Now, when he says, I'm going to absolve debt, how do you do that? With a magic wand? You're going to say, okay, these students don't have to pay their student loan back. What about me? I paid my student loan. My parents had loans when I went to college, and I had them when I went to law school. What about me? Do I get that money? Is it retro? Do I get that money back? Remember, a parent approached, I think it was Elizabeth Warren, and said, what about me? Do I get that money back? If you're saying these people don't have to pay for the student loan, that's not fair. Now, life's not fair, but government shouldn't be engaging in conduct that is patently unfair. Just like with universal income. We're going to give you a basic income. What is that? Work for the money you make. Because then the government now is going to be writing checks to people that are working to make it, to close the gap between, let's say, them and me. Well, maybe I earn the right to make more money than that a particular person. And maybe somebody earned the right to make more than me, or just makes more than me. Should I say Bloomberg's a billionaire? That's not fair. I worked hard. I went to Fordham University. I was a finance major. I did well. I went to law school. I did well. I work hard. I should have maybe, give me a billion. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way in any country, except the countries where there's corruption and the upper echelon pillage, the treasury. That's not right. But we know that socialism doesn't work. And what I don't like is when he talks about Scandinavia, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark. They are not socialist countries. Bernie, do your homework. They're not socialist countries. They have social programs. That's true. Maybe more than even America. They have social programs. We have social programs. But they are a free market economy. In fact, I once was listening, I don't know if it was from Denmark or a leader of one of those countries, said, we have to have a free market economy to pay for those social programs. The other difference is that those countries, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Norway, their population is very, very small. Sweden has 10 million, Denmark 5.6, Norway 5.3, Finland 5.5. New York City in 17, so maybe it has a little bit more now, had 8.6 million people. So New York City's population was bigger than Finland, Norway, Denmark, and almost as much as Sweden. Maybe they have 9 million in New York City now. Almost as much as Sweden. And those countries don't have poverty zones like we do in America. Go to Baltimore. Some places are like a third world country. That's a fact. Baltimore, St. Louis, certain towns in Michigan, Chicago. Those places have a lot of poverty, where people aren't working. They're a drag on the economy. So other people have to work harder, in a sense, to make up the difference, because the money's got to come from somewhere. States just can't print money. Federal government can print money. States can't print money. So something suffers. If they have to get the money from somewhere to pay for a segment of society that's not pulling its weight, that money's, where is it being sucked out of? Education? Healthcare? Where is it coming from? Maybe some of the like high-tech states like California, New York. They're not doing their citizens any favors. That's why people are leaving. California going to Texas, and New York people are going to Florida. Either no state tax or low state tax. Also a strong Second Amendment in many of those states. Can't carry a gun in New York or California unless you're law enforcement. But you can go to Texas and other states and be able to do that. So those states in many respects are more attractive than the state of New York where I live, where high taxes and other financial policies that don't really help. High property taxes, right? Higher income tax. You go to the store to buy something and it's 8 point something, where other states might be 4%. That money's coming now. Yes, New Yorkers maybe make more than Floridians, but when you retire, let's say, and you're not working, what are you going to do? So even if I own my house outright, I'm going to be paying over $1,000 a month, well over $1,000 a month, just property taxes alone. So back to what we were just talking about for a second. Sweden, Denmark, Norway. They're different countries than America. They're smaller. More people there work. And you know what's interesting? The unemployment in those countries are not as low as America under President Trump. For a while under President Obama, unemployment was double digits. Under President Trump, 3.6. Sweden, 6%. Denmark, 5.3. Norway, 3.9. Finland, 6.7. So America is doing pretty well in many, considering many factors. The overall economy, job creation, low unemployment for all segments of society. I said women, black, Hispanics. Low unemployment. So when Bernie Sanders says, let's look at the Scandinavian countries, he's wrong. That's a lie. They're not socialist. And just look it up. Don't just take my word for it. Look it up. You can do it with a Google search and it'll show you different articles you can read about these Scandinavian countries and socialism in general. And the Communist Manifesto that was written years ago. And it was almost like people read that like the Bible. And it was doomed to fail. Why has America been so prosperous? Because we believe in capitalism. Some months ago, I did one of my shows, I talked about Levi Strauss. And it was a guy that came from, was Germany or Austria, and his family came here first. He came here, he took his goods, and he went down to the Panama Canal, and then he made his way west. Then he got on a boat and made his way north, and he got to, I guess, the San Francisco area. And he sold, at the time it wasn't jeans, it was canvas for like tents and things like that. And then he hooked up with a guy, they made jeans, they used the rivets to strengthen the jeans. That's the American dream. And he was a foreigner. He came here and he took risks. He could have died on that quest. He could have lost his inventory. He could have been robbed. A lot of things could have happened to him. But he took the risk. And Levi Strauss, before he died, was a philanthropist. Wealthy man. The equivalent of a billionaire back then. And he did it. Hard work, an idea, and he did it. He's just one of many people that became successful. Bloomberg is an example. He wasn't born wealthy. Went to Johns Hopkins, and he got an education, and he was smart, and he did information services and business, and he's a billionaire. He's worth, I don't know, 60 billion, whatever it is. He's a billionaire. And there's only 108 billionaires in America. A lot more millionaires. But we see it all the time. Someone works hard, and they become successful. I wasn't born rich. I was born into the middle class, and I have a successful law firm. I work hard. I have to work every day. I can't just sit back on my laurels and say, yeah, I'm a success. Not there yet. but I have to be in the trenches every day working hard. The same as anybody else that works hard to support their family. Electrician, he might have to put the hours in and go to someone's house at 7 o'clock to fix a light, or a guy who's heating and air conditioning. He does what he has to do. A tax attorney, he's going to be working late leading up to April 15th, but that's his job. That's what, to steal a phrase from The Godfather, that's the profession we've chosen. So if you've chosen a profession, don't complain about it. That's what you got to do. That's what I have to do. There are things I don't love to do in my profession or that I have to deal with, but we do it. That's how it is. Gavin Newsom, who was the governor of California, a liberal man, he said recently that doctors should be able to write prescriptions for housing. I'm going to repeat that. Doctors should be allowed to write prescriptions for housing. I've never heard such nonsense. Do people need housing? Yes. Should a doctor write a prescription or be allowed to write a prescription, say, heart medication or diabetes or seizure medication? Oh, you need an apartment. Where is that going to be filled? You're going to go to your local pharmacy and he's going to say, here's the keys to this apartment. Ridiculous. The fact that a governor of a state like California, well, maybe it's not so surprising, it's California, but the fact that a major state or any state, we're not talking about some kook in his basement saying this. This is a governor of one of the biggest, if not the biggest, or most populous states, certainly, in the country, California. Think about that. Write a prescription for housing. When I first heard this, I said, are you kidding me? Is this a Saturday Night Live skit? Where would this be filled? The government. Again, more government intervention. And let's say you have a doctor that's willing to write prescriptions, just like opiates. There are some doctors that abuse prescriptions. And they go, you need opiates, here you go. And some of them get arrested and charged with a crime. Imagine if certain doctors, or all doctors, could write prescriptions for housing. Okay, I'm going to give you a 2-bedroom walk-up in Brooklyn. Here you go. What about me? Do I get a prescription? What if I already have housing? Now, let's say a guy has the ability, then the doctor's going to say, I need to see your finances because maybe you qualify. We don't want doctors doing that. Take care of the sick. Don't be writing prescriptions for an apartment or a house. That's utterly ridiculous. But it's out there. That's the scary part. We joke about things. Who would have thought years ago, not even that many years ago, 5, 10 years ago, if you'd said a socialist is going to win a major party to run for the President of the United States and win the nomination, people would be like, what, are you kidding me? It'd be like a Nazi running and winning, or something way far out there, either on the left or the right. But a socialist. That's why the DNC, the Democrat National Committee, they're freaking out. And a lot of Democrats are like, I can't vote for a socialist. So they don't want Bernie Sanders to win. And they're going to do whatever they have to do, like they did last time. They had superdelegates lined up just in case Bernie got a little closer. Superdelegates like Bill Clinton in New York and Elizabeth Warren in Massachusetts. They were going to sink Bernie if he got too close to the sun, too close to that nomination. He was never going to get out of there with the nomination. And to some extent they're saying that now, but now he's got momentum. He has a momentum that he didn't have in 16. He was doing pretty well in 16. Think about it. With two people, a socialist and Hillary Clinton, who was like, she was coronated to be the queen. There was a coronation that took place. She's going to run, she's going to be president. That was what was supposed to happen. It didn't happen. But it wasn't Bernie that sidelined her. It was Donald Trump coming down to that escalator and never looking back, slicing and dicing very, very competent Republicans. But now, Bernie has a real, Bernie's in the lead. Bernie has momentum, right? Early on, I thought it might be Biden because he was the alternative. Biden has something going on in his head. He's not all there. He's not. And this is no joke. He's not all there. He makes too many mistakes, and that's always been baked in. It's just like saying Trump is quick with his tongue, whatever. That's baked in. People know about that. But when you are running for president and you make mistake after mistake, say things, he said he was arrested when he was seeing Mandela. That apparently is a lie. The other day he said, I'm running for Senate. Now, sometimes we misspeak, and I correct myself. I might say, he's a Republican. Oh, no, I mean he's a Democrat. He didn't catch himself. He said Senate. It's like when he said Barack America or something like that. He's not catching it, the mistakes that he's making. And he's saying things that people look at like, is he lying? He was arrested or going to see Mandela? And then they do a fact check and it appears not to be the case. It's like Elizabeth Warren is the biggest liar in the history of politics. Let's be honest. She was Native American, helped to get a teaching position at Harvard. Then she said she was fired for being pregnant. That didn't pan out. She lies at every turn. She inflates herself. I'm a Native American. Fordham University. It's embarrassing. I went to Fordham, undergrad in Fordham Law. They did an article when she was a professor. They called her. They lumped her in with a woman of color. Look at Elizabeth Warren. She is not a woman of color. They took a DNA. It was like 0.001% Indian. It's ridiculous. Now, I was told I had high cheekbones. She put that down, Native American. So it wasn't like I heard a rumor. She put that down on applications. I'm 11% Native American. I wish I knew about that when I was applying to Harvard Law School and I got waitlisted. I wish I knew about that. I could have put that down. I might have got into Harvard. I'm being a little facetious to say, did I deserve to get in because I'm 11% Native American? I wasn't brought up Native American, of course not. I didn't know about it until I took the DNA test. And it really doesn't mean anything. Okay, I'm 11% this, I'm 2% Swedish, look at me. All right, 26% Italian, 18% French. I never considered myself French, but yet I'm a fifth French, just about. 26% Italian, 2% I think Norwegian, Swedish, and all that. It's fun, but it doesn't mean that's my culture. I'm an American. Even I remember my grandfather, who was all Italian, and one time I said to him, Grandpa, you're Italian. I was a little kid. And he said, no, I'm American. And at the time, I was a little confused because I know he was all American. His parents came from Italy, Naples and Calabria. So he was all American. He was born here in America. That's what he meant. I am an American. Now, that's what I say. If you said to me, what are you? I'm American. That's why sometimes I don't understand when they say to a black person, what are you? I'm Afro-American or African-American. Are you really? You're an American first. I don't say I'm an Italian-American. Now, I don't mean to insult anybody, but let's be honest. Who says I'm an Italian-American if you were born in America? I'm Jewish-American. I'm Irish-American. Maybe on St. Patrick's Day or Columbus Day. But I'm an American. If America went to war with Italy tomorrow, I'm on the side of America. I'm an American. Not that I despise Italy. I love Italy. It's part of my heritage. I'd love to go to Greece someday. I'm not Greek. Right? But I'm an American. So that's why sometimes they're saying, African American. Why say the African? Because you're black? We could see you're black. You could see I'm white. You could see I'm Italian. You might jump to that conclusion. Someone once said to me, you have the map of Italy on your face. Okay, but I don't go around saying I'm an Italian-American. I don't need to. I'm not. I'm an American. And that's what those candidates try to do. They try to separate us and say, you're white, or like they say, oh, you're Bloomberg, you're a white rich guy. Well, Bernie's a white rich guy, not as rich. And how did he make his money? Writing books as a politician. Now, that's okay. You can do that. He didn't create anything. He didn't create jobs for people, except maybe his staff. So I have more respect for a Bloomberg and a Trump than I do a Bernie Sanders. Harry Truman said, if you're a politician and you are wealthy, you're a crook. How did you make your money? Trump made it before. If Bloomberg became president, he made his money before. I respect that. I don't respect, look at Obama. He's rich now. He wasn't rich when he was a senator from Chicago. He became rich through politics. I always find that suspicious. I'm not saying it's illegal, but he made his money through politics. What is that saying? It's like a congressman who retires and then he becomes a lobbyist. He's trading off his connections. Whether he's a Republican or a Democrat, he's trading off of his connections. I don't like that. Again, it might not be against the law. I can voice my disapproval. That's not right. So those candidates running want to segregate us, separate us, divide and conquer. Now, a while ago, and I don't think he's going to get the nomination, but I said Buttigieg checks off all of the boxes the Democrats like to see. What do they like to see? Young. How do we know that? Well, think about it. Every Democrat president going back quite a few years, young. You have Barack Obama, Bill Clinton. You have Jimmy Carter. Kennedy, he had notoriety, but he was still young. All young. They were younger than 50 when they got the nomination, and they won. What happens when they nominate somebody old, like Dukakis or Mondale? They get their butts kicked. In '84, Reagan won 49 states. I don't know if we'll ever see that again, not in my lifetime, 49 states, because New York is so liberal, and California, a Republican is probably not going to win those states, and there are some states that are conservative that a Democrat might not win. So to see 49 states, but they pick young. He's young. Forget the color, because Barack Obama was black, so I'm not even focusing on that. Young, unknown. Other than Kennedy, Carter was pretty unknown, came from Georgia. They said he was a peanut farmer, and he went to Annapolis. You had Barack Obama. Who knew about him, really? He was kind of an unknown quantity. Bill Clinton, the man from Hope, Arkansas, he wasn't that well known. They like it that way, so no one really knows about him until later on. They're like, oh, he did that, he did that. But Buttigieg, he's gay. I know a lot of liberals like that. To me, I don't care. It's not a factor. Right? If he's good and he's gay, fine, vote for him. But the liberals love that. They want as much diversity as possible, and they get it with him. But what scares me, not that he would beat Trump, is that the Democrat Party has gone so far left, they support a socialist. They do. Now, a lot of Dems, I don't support him, but your party does. If my party supported a socialist, I would leave that party, or I would do everything I could to speak out against it. And say, we're going down the wrong path, guys. We're not voting for a socialist or somebody far right. So far right that it would be dangerous. Just about out of time. I had a few more thoughts, but we're going to have to wrap it up. I want to thank you for watching. We did something a little different tonight. We didn't talk about the law. We talked about politics, ideas, concepts, things that I find very important. And sometimes when I would do just the law, I miss doing this. So time to time, I'm going to do this. What I'd like to do is hear from you. Give me a call. I'm on Facebook. Let me know what you think. You agree, disagree. I love dissent. That's how we can communicate and exchange ideas. So thanks for watching. I'm Phil Jusino. This is Finding Common Ground. You have a great day.